The glass conservatory emerged from the snow like a cathedral buried alive. Victorian ironwork, frosted panels catching moonlight, half submerged where the hill had swallowed it decades ago. My wife Ellen stood beside me, both of us 73 years old, homeless in February, staring at the one piece of property our children hadn't managed to steal. They'd taken everything else. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 4 months earlier, we'd gathered around the dining table we'd bought in 1975, solid oak, survived 3 children and 47 years of family dinners. Our daughter Michelle had flown in from Boston. Our son Robert drove up from the city with his wife Stephanie. They'd requested this meeting. Dad, Mom, Robert began, sliding papers across the table. We've been talking with an estate attorney. At your age, you need to think about asset protection. We're 73, not dead, Ellen said, but she was smiling. Our children were successful, Robert in finance, Michelle a surgeon. We'd done something right. Exactly, Michelle continued. Which is why we need to move now, before any health issues complicate things. If either of you needs nursing care, Medicaid will take everything. The house, the savings, all of it. But if you transfer assets to us now, Stephanie added, it's protected. You wait 5 years, live here as long as you want, and everything's safe. I looked at Ellen. We'd worked for everything. Me, 38 years as a tool and die maker. Ellen, 32 years nursing at county hospital. The house was paid off. We had $200,000 in savings. Not rich, but secure. You'd keep living here, Robert assured us. Nothing changes. This just protects your legacy. Protects what you've built for us. Ellen squeezed my hand under the table. Can we think about it? Of course, Michelle said. But the attorney recommends moving quickly. The rules change constantly. We signed 3 weeks later. House, savings accounts, even the car, all transferred to Robert and Michelle as co-trustees. They'd set up a small monthly allowance for us. Everything legal, notarized, proper. You'll never have to worry, Robert had said, hugging me. We've got you. I'd believed him. The first sign came in November. Robert called about the heating bill. Dad, for $100? You need to keep it lower. This comes from the estate account now. It's winter, Robert. We're old. We get cold. I'm just saying, be conscious of spending. Then Michelle called about Ellen's medications. Mom, can't you use generics? These name brands are expensive. My doctor prescribed these specifically, Ellen said, her voice tight. I'll talk to your doctor about alternatives. Christmas, neither of them came. Too busy. They'd visit in spring, they promised. January brought the real conversation. Both of them, on speakerphone, refusing to meet in person. We've been reviewing the finances, Robert said. The house needs major repairs. Roof, foundation, electrical. We're looking at $80,000 in necessary work. Or, Stephanie's voice cut in. We sell now, while the market's strong. We've had it appraised. $750,000. My chest went tight. This is our home. And there are excellent senior communities, Michelle said. We've researched facilities. Nice places, everything included. We don't want a facility, Ellen said. We want our home. Mom, Dad, Robert's voice went hard. You don't own the home anymore. We do. And we can't afford to maintain a house you're living in for free while sitting on $750,000 in equity. For free. I stood, my hands shaking. We signed that house to you for protection. You said nothing would change. Things do change, Michelle said. We have our own families to think about. Our own futures. The house sells next month. You'll need to be out by March 1st. Where are we supposed to go? Ellen's voice broke. The Meadowbrook Senior Living has openings. $3,000 a month, but it's very nice. We've done a virtual tour. We have $1,900 a month in Social Security, I said. Combined. Silence. Then Stephanie, there are subsidized options. We'll send information. They hung up. Ellen and I sat in the house we'd filled with 47 years of life, now owned by children who were evicting us like tenants. We spent February searching for anywhere that would take 2 elderly people with no money and no credit. They closed our credit cards too, since those were in the estate. Every apartment wanted 3 times the rent in monthly income. Every senior facility cost more than we had. The subsidized places had 2-year waiting lists. There's a shelter, Ellen said one night, folding the same sweater 3 times, her hands needing work. Downtown. They take seniors. I pulled out the old file box I'd kept, family documents, Birth certificates, my father's papers. At the bottom, a deed I'd forgotten about. Property my aunt had left me in 1998, somewhere upstate. I'd never investigated it. Land was probably worthless. But it was something. The county clerk was efficient. She typed, frowned, typed more. It's still yours, she said. 40 acres, hillside property. There's a structure listed. Looks like an old Victorian conservatory. Tax assessment calls it historical, but derelict. You're paid up through an old escrow, though. She printed documents. Honestly, sir, it's probably condemned. But it's yours. We loaded Ellen's sedan. They transferred the title back when they realized insurance was expensive, with everything we could carry. Clothes, photographs, my tools, Ellen's nursing text she'd never thrown away. 47 years compressed into a trunk and back seat. Neither of our children came to say goodbye. The GPS lost signal 6 miles from the property. We drove on faith and old maps, up a mountain road that hadn't seen maintenance in decades, until we found the gates. Rusted iron, chained but not locked. Beyond, half buried in hillside and snow, the conservatory waited. And inside, in the frozen dark, something had been waiting 70 years to be found. The conservatory stretched 100 feet into the hillside, its Victorian glass roof visible only in fragments where snow had slid away. The entrance was a curved iron door, green with age, sealed with ice. I used my crowbar. 40 years of tool work made a man prepared, and the ice cracked like gunfire in the silent woods. Inside was darkness and the smell of earth and old glass. And something else, warmth. Thomas, Ellen whispered. It's not freezing. She was right. Cold, yes, but not the killing cold of February outside. My flashlight found the reason. Steam pipes running along the walls, ancient but intact, producing the barest whisper of heat. Geothermal, I said, following the pipes. The spring the conservatory was built over must still be active. We moved deeper. The conservatory had been built directly into the hillside, glass roof overhead, stone walls to the sides. What must have been spectacular gardens once were now wild tangles of winter-dead vines and frozen fountains. But the structure was sound. The glass panels, those that remained, were thick Victorian panes. The ironwork showed rust, but no failure. At the far end, built into the hillside itself, was a door. Solid steel, incongruous with the Victorian architecture. Modern, relatively, maybe 1960s. And it was locked with a combination dial. Why would a conservatory need a vault door? Ellen asked. I played my flashlight over it. No rust. Sealed edges. Someone had maintained this. Let's see what else is here first, I said. We spent the day exploring. The conservatory had been built in sections. The main greenhouse, a potting room, a caretaker's cottage built into the rock. The cottage was small but intact. 2 rooms, a bathroom with ancient fixtures, a kitchen with a cast iron stove. The furniture was rotted, but the bones were good. The geothermal system was brilliant. Natural spring water, heated by the earth, piped through the walls. Just enough to keep the temperature above freezing. Someone in the 1890s had built this to last. We could live here, Ellen said, standing in the cottage. It would take work, but we'd live through worse. We had my tools, our savings of $400, and nowhere else to go. That night, we slept in the car, running the engine for heat in 20-minute intervals. At dawn, I drove to the nearest town, 40 minutes down the mountain, and bought supplies. Propane heater, sleeping bags, food, cleaning supplies. I paid cash, told the clerk we were fixing up a cabin. Over the next week, we worked. I cleared the cottage, repaired what I could. Ellen cleaned with the fierce determination I'd watched her bring to everything for 47 years. The stove still worked. The bathroom plumbing needed new fixtures, but the pipes were sound. We set up the propane heater, hung plastic over the broken windows, and made it livable. It was small. It was rough. But it was ours. The vault door haunted me. I tried the obvious combinations, property deed numbers, dates, my aunt's birthday. Nothing worked. Why do you care? Ellen asked one evening. We were eating soup I'd heated on the stove, bundled in coats, but warm enough. It's probably empty, or filled with old garden equipment. Someone maintained that door, I said. Someone kept it sealed. There's a reason. I went back to the county records office. The clerk remembered me. I need the full history on the conservatory property, I said. Original owner, all transfers. She printed 30 pages. I read them in the car. The conservatory had been built in 1892 by a wealthy industrialist named Edmund Marsh. It passed to his daughter, then to her son, then through a series of trusts and estate sales. My aunt had bought it in 1979 for back taxes, 40 acres of nothing, essentially. But there was one detail in the 1963 transfer, an addendum about secure storage maintained per arrangement with E.M. Marsh Trust. Edmund Marsh. I looked him up at the library. Steel magnate, railroad investor, one of the robber barons of the Gilded Age. Made hundreds of millions, lost most of it in the 1929 crash. Died in 1958. And according to one obscure historical footnote, he'd been investigated in 1957 for hiding assets from creditors. Investigation dropped after his death, case sealed. Back at the conservatory, I studied the vault door again. It was professional, military grade. Installed long after the conservatory's construction. Someone had buried something here, literally and figuratively. I tried dates related to Edmund Marsh. Birth, death, business founding. Nothing. Then Ellen said, "What about the conservatory itself?" "What do you mean? Men like that love their toys. This place was a showpiece. Try the completion date." The historical record said construction finished May 1893. I tried May 18th, 93. The dial clicked, but the door didn't open. Other direction. Ellen said. They read dates differently then. Day, month, year. May 18th, 93. The lock clicked. The door swung open on oiled hinges that should have been frozen decades ago, but moved like they'd been maintained yesterday. Inside was a room carved from living rock. 20 feet square, climate controlled by some system, still drawing power from the geothermal setup. And filling that room, stacked on industrial shelving, were cases. Metal storage cases, military style, each labeled with numbers and dates ranging from 1958 to 1963. I opened the nearest one. Money. Banded stacks of $100 bills. Old style, perfectly preserved. And beneath them, a letter on letterhead from E.M. Marsh Trust, Private Holdings. I read it aloud. To whom it may concern, these assets represent personal holdings maintained outside standard estate accounting, preserved per trust arrangements established prior to 1929. Following lengthy legal consultation, these assets have been determined to be beyond creditor reach due to their origin in pre-crash trusts held in foreign jurisdictions and subsequently repatriated through private channels. As primary creditor claims were satisfied through other estate assets, and as these holdings were never documented in challenged accounts, they remain property of the trust. By order of final trust dissolution, assets passed to property holder. All legal documentation retained in Case 1. Ellen stood beside me, reading. "Thomas, how many cases are there?" We counted. 184 cases on the shelves. We started opening them. It took 3 days to inventory everything. Money, gold certificates, bearer bonds from foreign banks that had matured decades ago. Ellen kept tally in her precise handwriting, the same hand that had charted medications for 32 years. Finally, she set down her pen and looked at me in the dim light of the vault. $425 million, she said. The bonds especially. They've been accruing interest for 60 years. We sat in the buried conservatory, in the room carved from stone, surrounded by more money than either of us could comprehend. Outside, snow was falling again. Somewhere down the mountain, our children were living in our house, spending our savings, having erased us from their lives for $750,000. We had $425 million. Ellen started laughing, then crying, then both. I held her while she shook, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Spring came late to the mountain. We used that time well. I hired contractors from 4 different towns, paying cash for different jobs so no one saw the full picture. New windows for the cottage, historically accurate, I told them, for the restoration. A man from 2 counties over-installed proper plumbing. A crew from the city repaired the conservatory's glass roof, believing my story about inheriting the property from an aunt. Solar panels disguised as Victorian skylights provided power. The conservatory transformed. I restored the ironwork, rebuilt the fountains, cleared the garden beds. Ellen planted herbs and vegetables in the greenhouse sections, flowers in the decorative areas. By May, it was beautiful, a hidden Victorian jewel in the hillside, unknown to anyone but us. We converted the vault. I built a false wall, making it look like the room was half its actual size. Behind that wall, protected by new locks I installed myself, $425 million sat quietly in climate-controlled darkness. In front, we stored garden supplies and tools. Just a storage room, to anyone who might wonder. The cottage became home. Small, but ours. We bought real furniture, a real bed, kept the receipts modest enough to match our supposed budget. To anyone who asked, and few did, this far from town, we were retired folks living on Social Security, fixing up inherited property. We made one large purchase, a new truck, used, paid in cash in a town 3 hours away. The seller never asked questions about two elderly people with $12,000 in hundreds. We should help people, Ellen said one evening. We were sitting in the conservatory, surrounded by the garden she'd grown, watching sunset paint the glass overhead. We have more than we could spend in 5 lifetimes. It should do good. We planned carefully. Anonymous donations, never more than 10,000 at once, never in patterns that could be traced. The free clinic in town found envelopes of cash in their donation box. The food bank received monthly gifts. Families with medical debt discovered their bills mysteriously paid. We found them through local news stories, sent cashier's checks from different banks in different cities. A scholarship fund appeared for local high school students, administered through a law firm 2 states away, funded by an anonymous trust. 12 students a year, full tuition, no strings attached. We were careful. We were methodical. And it felt better than anything. Robert called in June. I almost didn't answer. Dad. His voice was strange. I need to talk to you. I'm listening. The house sold. $750,000, like we expected. Michelle and I split it. He paused. I bought a boat. 40-foot yacht. Stephanie wanted it. I said nothing. She left anyway. 2 weeks after we bought it. Took half the money in the divorce. His voice cracked. Michelle's not talking to me. She says I forced her hand on selling your house, that she wanted to wait. I don't know what happened, Dad. I had everything planned. You planned to take care of yourself? I said. You did. Where are you? Can I see you? I looked at Ellen, who was shaking her head. No, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Dad, please. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I said. You chose money over parents. Live with it. I hung up. Ellen came and held me while I shook. That was hard, she said. It was necessary, I replied. Michelle called in September. Ellen answered, put it on speaker. Mom. Michelle was crying. I've been trying to find you for months. Robert won't tell me anything. He says you hate us. Do you hate me? Ellen closed her eyes. No, sweetheart. I don't hate you. I'm so sorry. The house, pushing you out, it was wrong. Robert convinced me it was about protecting assets, but it wasn't. It was greed. I wanted the money. I'm so ashamed. Where are you living? Michelle asked. Please let me help. I can send money, find you a place. We have a place, Ellen said. We're fine. But you can't be fine. You have no money, no. Michelle? Ellen interrupted. We're fine. But you need to understand something. You wrote us out of your life for money. We remember that. Can I see you? Can we fix this? Ellen looked at me. I thought about the conservatory, about the life we'd built, about the people we'd helped, about the daughter who'd abandoned us. Call on Sundays, Ellen said. If you call every Sunday for 6 months, we'll think about seeing you. Miss one call, and we're done. I will. I promise. I love you, Ma. I love you too, Ellen said softly. But trust is earned back slowly. Michelle called every Sunday. We never told her where we were. One October afternoon, a young woman appeared at the conservatory gates. Early 20s, thin, with a baby on her hip. Her car was parked on the road, hood up, steam rising. I'm so sorry, she called out. My car overheated. Do you have water? Or a phone? Ellen brought her inside while I checked the car. Blown head gasket, fixable but expensive. While I worked, the girl, her name was Sarah, talked. Nursing school dropout, working 2 jobs, living in her car sometimes when rent was due. The baby, Madison, was 8 months old. Ellen held Madison while Sarah drank tea, tears running down her face. I'm trying so hard. But it's never enough. They left 2 hours later, car running rough but functional. Sarah tried to pay me. I have $40. Keep it, I said. Buy the baby something. After they left, Ellen and I sat in the conservatory as evening came on. I was thinking, Ellen said. About Madison. About Sarah trying to finish nursing school. 2 weeks later, Sarah received a letter from the Northern Counties Medical Education Fund. Full scholarship for nursing school, plus a monthly stipend for living expenses and childcare. 3 years, fully funded, no strings except maintaining grades. We watched her story in the local paper. Single mother returns to nursing school, determined to build future for daughter. The reporter made her a hero. We made that possible. Us. 2 people our children had thrown away. We lived quietly. The conservatory flourished. Ellen's garden became spectacular, a hidden jewel that no one but us would ever see. We helped people, anonymously, carefully. The scholarship fund grew. Medical debts disappeared. The free clinic expanded. One December evening, a year after we'd found the vault, we sat in the conservatory surrounded by Ellen's winter flowers. She'd grown them in the greenhouse sections, impossible blooms in the snow. The sunset painted the glass overhead in gold and rose. Do you think about them? Ellen asked. Robert and Michelle? Sometimes, I said. Michelle still calls every Sunday. Robert stopped trying months ago. I held her hand. 48 years of marriage, of building a life together, of being discarded and finding something better. We could tell them, Ellen said. About the money. Show them what they missed. We could, I agreed. But would it change anything? No, she said quietly. They'd just want the money. We have everything we need, I said. This place, each other, the ability to help people who deserve it. Ellen leaned her head on my shoulder. They took our house. We found a palace. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent. Inside, surrounded by flowers that shouldn't exist in winter, warmed by springs heated by the earth itself. Sitting on a fortune we'd never asked for, but would use wisely. We were richer than our children would ever understand. We'd been abandoned. We'd been betrayed. And we'd found something better than revenge. We'd found purpose. Madison's mother would graduate nursing school. The clinic would expand. The scholarships would continue. And 2 elderly people would live quietly in a buried glass palace, keeping their secret, keeping their dignity, and keeping faith that kindness mattered more than cruelty. Our children had taught us what we were worth to them. We'd learned what we were worth to ourselves. And that was worth more than $425 million. That was worth everything.